Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you. 3, 2, 1, and we are back. And this is part 3?
Yes.
Part 3, maybe.
Part 4.
Yes, part 4 of your 5-year success plan. And we really love all the great feedback we've gotten on this topic over the last couple of days. You guys really like it. Before we get to our next point, and this technically is the start of what we're calling year 3 in your 5-year plan, Julian had, I think, 7 or 8 really high-level coaching calls today. Mm-hmm. And the recurring theme, you and I were just talking about this, was really the stark lack of inventory in most markets.
Yes.
And I want to remind everyone, not only in Premier Coaching also, but in, frankly, a billion podcasts, because we've got over 2,000 podcasts, and I think there's 1,800 shows on YouTube now. We have talked about that topic, how to create your own inventory, I think 3 or 4 different times. We update that topic about every probably 4 to 6 months because, frankly, if we find a better way for you guys to find off markets, and an off market could be a notice of default, an off-market could be a builder inventory home, an off-market could be something you get from, say, someone who's becoming a member of a retirement community, something like that, right? So we give you a lot of creative ways to find off-markets, and we update that constantly. Go back and listen to those past podcasts. Go back. If you're obviously selling real estate and you're not finding homes for sale, definitely listen to the past training we've done on that subject. But I also want to remind all of you, one of the #1 places, if not the top place, you're ever going to find homes for sale are from buyers. Buyers calling about listings, buyers calling about your existing inventory, or buyers calling about, for example, if you have a local builder that is having a lot of buyers walk in, a lot of those buyers, depending on the price point, are going to have homes to sell. So you've got to have to start thinking beyond the MLS. The days of the MLS being the source for finding homes for sale are over. And now it's going to be about the agent who's got hustle.
Yeah, 100%. So for example, if you are working with a buyer who maybe is completely approved, they even have loan commitment, and maybe they can even make up a little bit of an appraisal difference, they're in good shape and they're a strong borrower, but you are on your 2nd, 3rd, 4th time of being outbid by cash or other reasons, you cannot magically turn that buyer into cash, right? So it is your job to find them something that they don't have to compete for. One of the things that we talked about on that podcast series was looking at your own past client and center of influence database as your private MLS. Do you have somebody on that list that is living in what your buyer who keeps on getting outbid wants? Maybe that's worth a phone call. Does that person know what their house is worth? Could you turn them into a buyer and lather, rinse, repeat? You're going to have to be more creative, more aggressive, make more contacts, follow through faster than probably any time that you have in your past career. And my coaching right now is expect this year to continue to be like that because we don't have a lot of indication that inventory is just going to shake loose.
No, I agree completely. Well, I'll even go as far as to say you don't have time to screw around with little pet projects. Right now, this time of year, set aside all the branding and the marketing and all the things that are sort of, intellectually, if not creatively interesting,
Yes.
And focus on making money. Focus on taking care of yourself and your family financially. Julie and I are from Ohio, and there's an old saying. I learned this from my dad, who was from Indiana, right? Julie knows what I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. When the sun is shining, make hay. Or, that's in the essence of it.
Make hay while sun shines.
Exactly. So just remember that. The sun is shining, and you're going to have to go out and make hay. It's going to require work. It's going to require you having a very, frankly, more aggressive approach to finding homes that are for sale.
Yes.
Create your own inventory. So that's past podcasts, and we talk about that topic every single day on our Premier Coaching program. And yes, Premier Coaching, you can join right now 100% for free. There's links in the show description. There's links in all the show notes on YouTube, on Spotify, and iTunes, everywhere you can possibly imagine. And one of the great benefits of joining Premier Coaching is you do get a semi-private coaching call every single weekday, every single work day. So definitely join Premier Coaching. The easiest way to do it is just go to premiercoaching.com or just text the word Premier to 47372. text the word Premier to 47372, or just go to premiercoaching.com. Or like I said, all of you are listening to us on iTunes or one of the other podcast widgets, or listening to us over on YouTube. The links are down in the show notes. And yeah, that's the quickest way for you guys to move forward. But please, please, please really drill down on what I just said. This is not the time of year to be speculative. This is not the time of year to be creative even. This is the time of year to really drill down and do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do at the highest level. And if you want to do some of those pet projects, some of those more speculative branding, marketing activity type things, and they are fun, I don't doubt that. Yep. But do those in about, what is this, May? Basically almost May 1st. Yeah. Do those in about 8 months, basically. Do those when it's naturally and normally slower in most of the real estate market, which is around the holidays. When Julie and I sold real estate, that's how we always did things. We coach all of our agents to do the same thing. You know, if you don't have staff, if you don't have a team, if frankly you don't want to spend the money, which is the smart move in this market, to scale up some of these creative projects that you guys are so addicted to, some of the things that you're hoping and praying might someday work to create a lead for you, then yeah, put them off, but do drill down and focus on being of service to your clients and making a lot of money. Because there are agents right now, and you know, Julie and I are involved with Exp Realty, so we do get great optics on what's actually happening amongst the, you know, pushing 100,000 agents at EXP. And there definitely is a clear bifurcation. The agents that are doing the real work are the ones that are making a lot of money. We have a lot of agents in our Premier Coaching program that are making more money than they did even in 2021. Mm-hmm. So it's all about the effort you're willing to put forth. The MLS is not the go-to anymore for listings for sale. So Julie, let's pick up where we left off the other day on year 3.
Year 3. Point number 1, continue to build on your first 2 years. If you missed those podcasts, get caught up, because we're talking about year 3 of your 5-year plan. Continue to build on your first 2 years. Amazingly, you are now a veteran agent. Can you believe that? Why is that? It's because a lot of agents fail in those first 18 months. But now you've made it to your 3rd year. You have more experience, confidence, and skill. This is the year of consistency and predictability. Do a new real estate treasure map. We've been talking about the real estate treasure map all week. That is your business and personal plan.
I'll give you this big one, though. Don't stop doing what it took you to, if you've made it into real estate and you're now on year 3, you've actually gotten past some of the hardest part of real estate, which is essentially choosing a path that's going to keep you in business, because most agents after year 2 have effectively failed. They might still have active real estate licenses, but they're failed. They're zombies. They're not actually selling anything. If you've been following our coaching and now you're pushing into year 3, you will have already accepted the fact that a lot of your success is going to be predicated on proactive lead generation. In year 3, it's kind of like the stages of mastery or the stages of learning. Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of agents will start basically thinking, well, it's time for me to build a team, or time for me to work on my marketing and branding. And that means you stop doing what it took for you to be more, essentially successful and profitable in the first place, which leads Julie perfectly to point number 2.
Point number 2, doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level now is paying off more predictably. Do not allow boredom or repetition to wreck your momentum. That's about when it settles in, right about year 3 when they've been successful. This is actually what you've been working towards, cruising altitude. Remember the jet taking off analogy, and I'll bounce that to you in a second. Your success is increasing, but will be less obvious because your net worth is increasing in the background in a non-flashy kind of way. We'll talk about that with future points, but let's talk about getting to that cruising altitude.
Well, I mean, it was actually a great point from the book that, I don't know if you got into that chapter in the book, Julie. It's called Getting Rich by, what was his name?
Felix is part of his name, but I don't remember.
Yeah, is it Getting Rich or Get Rich?
How to Get Rich.
How to Get Rich, right. We suggested this book the other day. How to Get Rich. Go to Amazon and just put in the name Felix and you'll get the rest of it. And he actually said, stay small, think big. And I thought that was a great point.
I like that too.
Yep. So in other words, live small. Don't spend all of your money. Don't act like you're tall hat, no cattle, which basically means you're walking around like you have big Stetson on, but you only have 3 cattle, right? Don't start acting like something you're not. And I know in this day and age with social media and whatnot, a lot of you have been led to believe that the way you become successful is acting like you're successful on social, and somehow that'll make it so you're successful in real life. Well, there's a nice, elegant lie. Wouldn't you all agree at this point? You know that's true. So let me talk about the jet taking off analogy, and I'll do this in a condensed version. So there's really 4 stages to a jet taking off. There's the loading of the plane. There's the throttling down to clear the runway. There's the getting up to cruising altitude. And then there's the deciding whether or not you're going to go up to a higher altitude or stay at cruising altitude for however long you choose to. So what happens a lot of times is agents are going to get to the point where they're loading the plane. Loading the plane is where you got your license. Loading the plane is when you're hopefully choosing the right path in which to build your business. Loading the plane is all of the getting ready to get started being done with, because the next stage is where you're going to clear the runway. Now, clear the runway is when you're having to throttle down. That's when you're making yourself uncomfortable. That's where the plane is shaking, rattling, and rolling. That's where you use possibly more energy, more effort, more fuel, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually than maybe you've ever used in your life. In a very condensed period of time. Remember, the plane is taking off. You've all sat there before. The plane starts to shake. No one's allowed to get up and walk around. If you're sitting next to Julie, she's got the death grip on your arm.
Perhaps.
So all of this, that's the plane taking off. And then and that's when the plane's using the most fuel. The jets are making the most noise. And then when it starts to, smooth out, even if you're a seasoned veteran flyer, it always is a good sound when the jets are starting to basically not use so much fuel, and now you're at cruising altitude. Now the plane starts to level off. Now you're going to be able to get up and walk around and relax a little bit. And
strangely have a meal.
It's strangely, if you choose to, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens is you're at cruising altitude. You have to fight like hell in life to get to cruising altitude. But the problem with cruising altitude, and this is what happens a lot of times, is humans will stop doing what it took to get them there in the first place. In other words, you won't maintain the same level of effort that you did before, and you'll start to slack, or you'll start to be distracted. So, the pilots will, you know what, the plane's fine. Let's just put it on cruising altitude or cruise control, basically, and we'll go walk around. We'll go, talk to the whatever. We'll go have some coffee, and well, guess what? The plane then starts to veer off direction by one tiny little degree, then another, and then you're miles, if not states, off in terms of where you were supposed to have landed the plane. Or even worse, what happens is the plane itself starts to lose altitude, and no one's really paying attention because you stopped paying. You took yourself out of the cockpit. You stopped essentially maintaining the same amount of effort. Now, here's the beautiful thing about when you have fought to the point where you're cruising altitude. You can stay at cruising altitude, and I'm not saying be complacent, but doing what you essentially had to do to get there in the first place for long decades, guys. Your whole careers, really. And, the thing you got to fight then is getting bored, right?
Or a previous point.
In novelty, right? But here's the beautiful thing about real estate. If you choose to go to the next level, let's say, for example, next altitude, let's say you want to buy another house, you want to buy a new car, you want to, pay for a kid's college education or pay for a wedding or whatever it is. All you got to do is start throttling down a little bit more and then basically take the plane to the next level. And that is, one or two extra listings at all times and things like that. And you produce more cash flow. You guys get it? When you're at cruising altitude, your life is a billion times better. You may have been at cruising altitude in other ways in your life, and I bet you complacency snuck in. You stopped doing what it took for you to get there in the first place, and you lost that altitude. And you indeed what happened was, and what happens to a lot of people, as soon as they start to crest cruising altitude, they stop doing what it took for them to get there in the first place. And guess what happens? That plane comes, having to rush back down to land. And then you have to start all over again. But what most people will do is they're back there after having loaded the plane. They're pulling out to the runway. They're then, throttling down to finally get the plane off the ground. And then as soon as the plane starts rocking and rolling, then they pull back on the throttle. They said, nope, this is too hard.
Yep.
This is too scary. And then the plane then has to re-taxi, go back over and start again and again and again. I would bet, if you're being honest with you, you have done that a billion times in your life.
It is very common for us to see this with you guys, our listeners, real estate professionals in general, because throttling down, think about when the jet takes off. That is when most of the fuel is being expended. That's why it's loud. That's why, it rumbles a bit. And some of you will do that for about 10 minutes and then freak out and put the plane back down.
Well, we were at the gym today, and we were talking to two of our friends, Bobby and Joe.
Yes.
Okay, and both of them have lost an enormous amount of weight.
Yeah.
Did you hear Bobby say he lost 50 freaking pounds?
Was it really 50?
Yeah. He's like 5'7". The guy lost 50 pounds.
It's a fraction of himself.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And Joe lost something like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And both of them were saying, frankly, things that I very respectfully and politely pointed out to them would not be smart things for them to actually consider doing. For example, they're saying, I'm just going to try to maintain my current weight. Or I think I've lost enough weight at this point. Or in other words, they were talking about the fact that they were then going to stop doing what it took for them to get there in the first place to the point where they lost the weight. And you guys know what they're going to do. They're going to gain all that weight back. And that is what happens to most people. They lose weight, they say, I did it, and then they go right back to their eating habits and they just stop exercising, stop doing what they don't want to do and they don't want to do at the highest level, and then they gain all that weight back. That's the cycle that most of us experience in life, but that's not the way it has to be. You can experience ever-increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, provided you just accept the fact that you have to continuously, keep the throttle down. And again, I love what Felix said, right? Live small, think big. All these things work together hand in hand. Yeah. But here's the thing hopefully you guys will agree you're all feeling, because I feel it as I say this to you. You know what we're passing along to you now is correct. Intuitively, you feel, there's no snake oil in what we're saying, right? We're not trying to woo you guys. We're not trying to, essentially wall you into some sort of spiritual neverland with some sort of woo-woo speak about some sort of, higher power or just all this, new age Mickey Mouse. We're telling you what makes sense. And that's the reason it resonates with you. So don't resist that. Just accept that. And then you're going to find that, frankly, becoming successful over long periods of time, ever increasing levels of success, actually becomes easier because you've removed the obstacles.
That's right. Thank you for that plane analogy. It gets better every time you do it.
I'm trying. I do try to improve
I do want to add one
stories.
thing. Following navigation.
Oh, yeah.
That's your business plan, right?
Yeah.
So you stop following that and you get off by a degree or two and you'd be like, remember that flight that we took one time to Puerto Rico and we landed in a wrong city because they apparently stopped using it?
It was Florida, and it was
Yeah.
we were the only time we flew was
Spirit.
Soulless Air, Spirit Air,
I know.
and they landed in the wrong city in Florida. That happened.
I know.
How does that happen?
Apparently they're not listening to the podcast. I don't know.
Anyway.
Okay, so point number 3. This year number 3, 24 transactions is your goal with a $288,000 gross commission income based on our previous math. If 24 seems easily achievable, modify up to 36. That'll make you $432,000 GCI. Yes, this is possible. 3 listings sold per month, referring your buyers to buyer partners and keeping only the best buyers for yourself. And again, a lot of that came from a previous building on year 1 and year 2.
I really like that last bit you wrote. So definitely keep 2 or 3 of the best buyers, ideally people that have homes to sell that you have the houses listed,
Yep.
and refer all those other buyer leads out to agents who only want to work with buyers and charge them a 25 or a 35% referral fee. Now, what's the advantage to that? Obviously, frankly, you're going to keep the best ones for yourself. But it's also going to remove your excuse not to actually constantly be proactively lead generating for new listings. Because otherwise what you're going to do is, you know what? I don't need to do what I don't want to do, and I don't want to do it at the highest level and go after listings. I got 5, 6, 10, 15, 37,000 amazing buyer leads.
Yeah.
No, you don't, because there's no such thing as a buyer that has to buy. Buyers can always change their mind, and they do all the damn time. And if you're a new agent and you're listing for the first time, please never forget what I just said. It's so important. I'm going to say it twice. There's no such thing as a buyer that has to buy. A buyer can always change their mind, and they frequently do. Interest rates go up, interest rates go down. House prices are going up, house prices are going down. The news cycle, their emotions,
Here's
the weather.
one. They don't feel like competing anymore.
Exactly. All these things. Buyers can always stay where they are. They can stay renting. They can stay living in mom's basement. They can stay in their current house, condo, or whatever. And they do that frequently anytime. So buying a home, for the most part, is an emotional experience. And the motivation of doing a transaction, if all of a sudden those emotions start turning from excitement to fear, they're going to take themselves out of the market. Now let's look at the other side. Sellers. There are dozens of examples of sellers that absolutely positively have to sell. Have to sell. The choice to sell is no longer theirs. In other words, they have to sell the property. The judge says you have to sell this property. Say it's a probate listing. That listing has to be sold. If someone with financial problems, that listing has to be sold.
Relocation.
That listing has to be sold. Probate has to be sold. Again and again and again. So many examples. So if you have a choice to spend your time working with people that might end up at the end of the day changing their minds, or listings that have to be sold, always choose to go after the sellers that have to sell. And here's the thing that also is especially amazing. Right now, in a lot of markets, people are saying there's not enough inventory. There's not enough inventory in the MLS. There are gazillions
Right.
of other homes that are available for sale. You just have to learn how to go after them. That is really the bottom line.
It absolutely is. I beg you all to stop your addiction with the MLS. It is not working out for you. You have to try harder this year. Refer to previous podcasts. We'll have to dust that off in a couple of
But
months.
the reality of it is the MLS is a great source of listings, as a great place to put homes, but it is not like it was in the past because of the fact that a lot of these portals ruined listing agents, business models, and such that they are selling buyer leads. A listing, when you took a listing, one of the benefits of taking the listing was then you were going to be able to, those buyer leads that came off the sign and came off your marketing and advertising would go to you. You could pre-qualify them. You could actually, you learned to be a listing agent so you could expand your business, right? Makes sense. What Zillow did, what Realtor.com did, what Trulia did is they then basically, essentially, I'll not use the word I'm using, but let's just say you hit their website and here was a listing for sale, and there was the agent representing the listing, which was a buyer's agent that was paying to have their picture buy that listing, which you cannot tell me that was not by design trying to fool the public into believing that agent was the listing agent. Of course it was. Now here's what happened and this is the reason why your buyer leads mostly suck, is because the best buyers know that that's not the listing agent. The best buyers are not going to call or not going to trust the portals to connect them with the listing agent. The best buyers except new first-time buyers, the best buyers they know how to go to Google and other sources, go directly to the broker's website and find the actual listing agent, and that's who they're going to call, thus making being a listing agent 10x more powerful than it's ever been in the past.
Absolutely. Listings are mental labor. Buyers are absolutely physical labor. Okay, so point number 4, make sure your own net worth is growing. Continue to invest in non-risky assets like an additional rental property in your stock portfolio. And of course, by now, you should be very clear that you should be with Exp Realty. That's part of it as well.
Yes, but also dividend paying stock.
Yep.
I'll put it on there. Well, I'll tell you right now, and you and I have been talking about this a lot, is treasuries, T-bills. You guys can right now invest in a T-bill and get a 5%, like you invest the money for 90 days, and you put $100,000 in or $1,000 in or $100 in, 100's the minimum. You will get a guaranteed 5% return in 90 days. That's kind of insane. Yeah. So let's say you took $1,000 and you invested in, and you can go to Treasury Direct. I think it's treasurydirect.gov, treasurydirect.gov, and you put $1,000 into treasuries. You buy 90-day treasuries. They're right now a little over 5%. And every 90 days, what do you do with the money? You just buy the next 90-day treasury or the next 90-day treasury. Think how much money on just $1,000, if they're paying you essentially, it's only 5% every 90 days, that actually accumulates to double-digit returns on your investment. That's pretty awesome, guys. You should be considering all these different things. But rental properties and other things, and Julie said obviously Exp Realty, there is no doubt, and it should be no doubt in all of your minds at this point, that Exp Realty is one of the greatest wealth accelerators. It's not just a brokerage, guys. Yes, it's a great brokerage. Yes, virtually all of you will be making more money at Exp because you have a more preferential, agent-centric commission split. But Exp, Glenn Sanford and his, the genius model he created, makes it so you make money not just from your real estate transactions, but you also become a partner in the company. You get equity in the company. EXPI is publicly traded. EXPI, Julie and I were just up at where were we? It's ringing the bell. NASDAQ ringing the bell, right. I still can't believe we did that in January.
The cold weather stunned your memory.
It did. Anyway, so we were just up in New York doing that with Glenn as a guest of his. Yes, and revenue share. So there's so many different pathways to creating passive income in addition to your immediate income with EXP. So there's 2 pathways you can go right now to learn more about EXP and why you're going to want to partner with Julie and I at Exp Realty. If you're just getting started and want more information, text the letters EXP to 47372. Text the letters EXP to 47372. Or if you're ready to land the plane, which I know hundreds of you are, and you're looking for an Exp Realty sponsor that's going to be very proactive in your success at Exp Realty, you can text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. I want to be very clear. Julie and I can sponsor you in any of the 50 states and any of the 24 different countries that EXP is active in. I got that question twice today. So yes, we can sponsor you any place basically on planet Earth where EXP is active, which is, every state in the nation, Canada, and 24 other countries. So please do consider partnering with Julie and I at EXP Realty. 512-758-0206 is my direct cell phone. That is a direct cell phone. Do not call, do text. And then just give me a little bit of background on you, and let's pick the conversation up. But if you're just getting ready to get started and you're just curious about EXP, just text EXP to 47372. But if you're ready to choose a broker, you want to choose EXP, we are here for you. Text me directly at 512-758-0206.
All right, point number 5, step away from the easy button. It doesn't work. You're looking for it, especially in year 3. You want it to be easier, but it doesn't work. Don't fall prey to the 3 Bs. Building your brand, buying buyer leads, or building a team. These things are unnecessary. They are optional and will potentially erode your profitability. You do have proactive skills. You've made it to year 3, so don't make those mistakes.
Now, there is a place if you want to work on your brand, if you want to work on your building a team. There are things that we teach you how to do that in Premier Coaching. But what we're doing is we're trying to hone you guys in on the fact that in this economy, in this market, do not be speculative. You have to, more than ever, remember the product is your profit. And you have to lead with the idea that you're going to make profit or you won't. And the problem is when you start doing this stuff that's more speculative, the branding, the marketing, all the rest of it, what you're going to do is you're going to take your eye off the ball of selling real estate, listing homes in particular, and then you're going to spend what would have been your profit on speculative things. Don't do it. But if you are going to do it, choose the normal, natural times of the year where it's slower. Oh, I did get this question on Instagram.
What's that?
Someone asked me when do we coach our top agents to take time off so they don't burn themselves out, which is a great question. And I'll give you the answer. Is there are plenty of times during the year where it's, again, normally slower, spring break and, you can, there's all kinds of holidays where it's not like completely slow, but it's a lot slower. End of the year, there's all, whole months.
Spring break, basically. Easter week, when kids get out of school, when kids go back to school, 4th of July week, all of those natural weeks where people don't expect as much of you. You do need to pre-schedule that. That's a great question because it comes up
Halloween week.
Halloween week, yeah.
Which is funny.
Stock up on your candy.
Yeah, exactly.
Between Thanksgiving and Christmas particularly. But, I'm coaching a lot of high-end, my elite coaching clients. This comes up a lot with them because they're working hard. They're doing a lot of volume. They're doing a lot of listings. They're working hard. And so, how do they refill the cup? So for them, part of their coaching homework is to pre-schedule the refilling of the cup. In addition to what you said, we also do 3-day weekends and staycations and things like that.
But don't take time off when it's peak working season.
No, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Don't do it. All right, next point.
Make hay while the sun shines, right? Okay, so point number 6, speaking of making hay, master at least 4 spokes, keeping your center of influence as your foundation, but expanding into other sources of business. New construction is a great spoke to add your 3rd year. You always have to have that foundation of your center of influence in your past clients. But as we talked about in year 1 and year 2, you also have to be very proactive, talking with, making contact, conversation with a decision-making adult about real estate, with categories who are most likely to actually list. Those are for sale by owners. Those are expireds. Those are probate. But make sure that you're working all of these at this point because by year 3, you are having those skills pay off for you.
So spokes are our analogy, which is copywritten, by the way, as copywritten analogy with regards to spokes in the wheel or sources of business. We talk about that really extensively in the first level of Premier Coaching. And you can join Premier Coaching right now. The links are in the bio. The links are everywhere. But definitely join Premier Coaching. And when you do, download the Real Estate Treasure Map. The Real Estate Treasure Map is what goes into it's like 80 pages, but it's a fill-in-the-blank business plan. It explains essentially the spokes that you should be putting on your wheel and which order you should be putting them on. So definitely do that when you join Premier Coaching. Next point, Julie.
Next point, number 7. Now may be the time to hire a full-time assistant. Make that assistant a profit center through prospecting their center of influence and or having them do broker price opinions. They've got to be a rower, not just a writer.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, so what that means is if you are going to now have that expenditure, even if it's a part-timer that you are paying with regards to not, different than a transaction coordinator that gets paid when you have a closing. If you've got a full-time assistant, you are paying them weekly to do a job. They also have to be part of your team with lead generation. They're talking to their past clients, your past clients, centers of influence, people they know, they're referring to you, and broker price opinions can also be a great profit center That's basically an elaborate CMA.
So rower, not a rider. A lot of you have got this in your head that you're supposed to have, people that do transactions in your teams and then people that service the transactions. The problem with the people that service the transactions is their fixed cost. So those are the riders. Those are the people that are sitting in the boat that are like, okay, you guys go and you row. And the rowers are the salespeople. The rowers are the ones that are doing all the real work. You need to make everybody a rower. So if you got riders in your boat right now, first of all, frankly, you may not even need them anymore and you might want to toss them out because there is amazing AI that's coming around the bend, which is going to make it so a lot of these sort of transaction coordination types and these marketing types and all the rest of it, they're going to be easily replaced with AI. We're going to be talking about that extensively on future podcasts.
True.
But do not allow any riders in your boat in a market like this. You do not want a bunch of fixed costs. Fixed cost is dead weight. Dead weight is something you're going to have to end up lugging around and paying for. And so just keep that in mind.
They need to be an asset more than a liability.
Yep.
Okay, so the assistant's main job is to do everything not on this list. Then we're going to wrap in a second. Proactive lead generation. This is your list, not theirs. You do the proactive lead generation, furiously fast lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing. They can prepare your pre-listing packages, confirm your appointments, set up showings. They do everything that is not on your dollar productive list. That makes you more efficient, makes them more of a rower.
That is the bottom line. If you want to be wildly successful in real estate, get really good at just those few things. Julie throws furiously fast lead follow-up in there. Personally, I don't.
Because if you botch that, that's not good.
Personally don't think it should be in there, and I'll give you guys both sides of it. So proactive lead generation. We don't agree on everything, but that's okay. Proactive lead generation, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing. Now, if you're doing a good job at proactive lead generating, you're going directly to pre-qualifying, which is going directly to you setting an appointment.
That's true, ideally.
Which means you're going directly to then at that appointment presenting, negotiating, and closing, right? You shouldn't be your goal should not to be proactively lead generate and then follow up until the cows come home. Your goal should be proactively lead generating, pre-qualifying, setting that appointment, and then if for some reason you don't actually set the appointment, then you furiously fast lead follow up. But do not make the mistake of institutionalizing into your thinking that your goal is not to set appointments when you're making contacts.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree with your take on that. My stance on the furiously fast lead follow-up is specific to the category of you have a lead that is calling on your sign. It's an open house lead, whatever. You haven't had that initial contact. And if you don't call them back immediately, furiously fast lead follow-up, it's no longer a lead. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. And those things, that should be not in the sequence. You should put that as last.
Yeah.
So if you fail at setting the appointment, basically, then you obviously have to do lead follow-up. But here's what matters. Those are the activities that you have to be really good at. Those are the last activities you ever want to delegate. Oh, Tim, what are you talking about? I don't want to do my own pre-qualifying. That's the reason you don't have any really good leads.
Right.
Oh, Tim, I don't want to be proactively lead generating. That's the reason you have no profit because you're spending all of your money on paid lead generation. You guys get it?
I'm going to hire a VA. They can do it for me.
Can you imagine walking into a doctor that's going to do a procedure on your dog and the doctor essentially is telling you all the things he's going to delegate and he's not even going to be any part of your transaction? Something is wrong with the real estate industry that agents think their number one job is to delegate. And you should be delegating the mundane tasks, but proactive lead generation, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing, and then lead follow-up. Those are not the mundane activities. Those are the money activities. Those are things that get you paid. Do not delegate those things because I promise you, whoever you delegate them to will not be nearly as good as you. And if you're not good at those things, guess what your job is going to be? Get really good at those things. And if you never get good at branding and video making and and all the other stuff that people are trying to pressure you to get good at, who cares?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay because if you know how to proactively lead generate, you will never have to make a YouTube video. I got good news for you. If you want to not have to basically throw your hat in the ring of the social media wannabe influencer types who always want to be, who want to be famous more than they want to be rich, well, here's a little thought for you. Get good at the real work of real estate.
Well, I have to say, I am so proud of my elite coaching clients who are really proactive right now. So I'll give you a couple of examples of the difference that you illustrate, right? So there are agents out there that are, I got to do another video. I got to do a video a day. I got to learn how to do this Instagram, this TikTok. I got to do all that. Because I'm not doing enough of that. I must not be doing enough because I don't have enough leads. Versus some of our coaching clients who are taking their buyers who are ready to rumble, getting their very specific needs, and doing the exact things that we coach on how to find inventory other than or in addition to your MLS. For example, my door knockers, who find out, okay, Tim, you want to be in XYZ neighborhood. It's got to be this school district, and it has to be at least 2,000 square feet with a 2-car garage. All right, tell me the 6 streets that are your favorite streets. And by the way, I'm not going to do this for you unless you are absolutely pre-qualified. I'm sorry, you are pre-approved, loan committed, or all cash. You are? Okay, great. So I'm going to go out this afternoon, and I'm going to make contact with people in your exact 6 streets that you desire, and I'm going to find the next person for you to buy. And you know what? They do it nearly every time. And you know what they do? Lather, rinse, repeat. That person who's selling their house to their buyer in a non-competitive, non-knockdown, drag-out situation, who they now control the entire transaction. Now, guess what? That's their next client. They're going from deal to deal to deal.
They are thinking big and they're living small. They're doing the real work of real estate and they're making all the money.
They're like Navy SEALs. It's amazing.
I'm going to share with you a story. I have to be very careful what I say, but I'm going to share a story. Yesterday, I got a text from someone who's in our Exp Realty group. Mm-hmm. And he had someone convince him that he needed to learn how to be really famous on YouTube.
Oh boy.
And then he'd signed up for someone's class, and amongst other things, this person was teaching him how to be famous on YouTube. He showed me a video. He screenshotted with his iPhone the videos that he was supposed to learn in order to know how to basically make YouTube videos. Listeners, I'm not exaggerating. There were almost 70 videos on how to make YouTube videos, and the shortest one was like 11 minutes, right? And most of them are around 30 minutes. So he thought, learn how to be a YouTube influencer, and he was somehow supposed to absorb all that information so that all of a sudden, this is before he makes his first damn video. To which I asked him, well, what's your goal from doing all these videos? What's your goal from doing all this marketing and branding? What's your goal from basically doing all the direct mail? What's your goal from making the fancy website? What's your goal, listeners, for doing any of that stuff? And, well, I was told, well, I'm not. Okay, what's your goal? Tell me. What are you trying to bring? Or I'll use a woo-woo word. What are you trying to attract to you? Well, I want to attract leads. Okay, that makes sense. What kind of leads do you want to attract? Well, ideally, I want to attract listing leads. Okay, so you're going to hopefully absorb all this content. And then how many videos are you supposed to make? Well, he's suggesting that we make something like 25 or 30 videos in the first 60 days. Okay, now how much time is that going to take? Guys, hundreds of hours just to basically make videos that are completely speculative. I said, so your goal is to become a YouTube influencer, which is going to take you an extraordinary amount of time. So hopefully, no guarantees, but hopefully your video is going to result in you finding a listing lead. Is that right? Yeah. And then the idea is that the videos will then be creating a steady stream of, listing leads for me, and I won't have to ever proactively lead generate.
They'll just turn up for you.
They'll just turn up. Okay. So how do you know that that's true, what you just said? What proof do you have? Well, no, so-and-so said it. They had testimonials for it. Have you validated it? How many other agents are your videos how many other agent videos are your videos? Let's just set aside the oversaturation of agent videos on YouTube. Let's forget that for a second. This is what I said to him. And I'll call him Bob. I said, Bob, so just so that I'm clear, your goal from doing all this extraordinary amount of effort, and listeners, I promise you, it was more work than any of you ever done in your lives just to basically get through all these damn videos.
I think that's pretty much more hours than it takes to get a license.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Except in maybe Texas, right?
Yeah.
And so, in order for you, because you want to generate a listing lead, and he goes, yes, that's right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what, and I did trick him, but that's okay. I like doing that. I said, let's go to your MLS right now. I'm going to show you where I'm going to guess at least 20 listing leads waiting for you. He sort of probably knew what I was doing, but he played along anyway. He went to his MLS, and I said, go back 6 months, and I want you to put in the entire MLS, I want you to put expired listings, withdrawn listings, temporarily off the markets, but mostly expireds and withdrawns. I want you to tell me how many there were. There were like 280. And now I want you to think about what I just said. So Bob was going to do all this crap in order to hopefully generate a listing lead, and there right in front of them were 280 free listing leads. Why do you guys want to make it so damn complicated? Why do you want to create these massive walls that you have to figure out these mountains that you have to figure out somehow to climb before you're allowed to before you're going to award yourself the opportunity to be successful? Why don't you instead go directly to the people that have their hands in their air and say, yes, I want to sell a house? Do you guys get the asininity of it? Do you understand how even thinking that that's the path to go down makes no sense if your goal is to make money and help people. I want you to think about that. Come up with an argument. Oh, here's the argument against it, because I know what these marketers will say. They're going to say, but Tim, that means every single day, if you're a proactive lead generator, you have to prospect. You're going to have to actually do the real work of real estate and go out there proactively every single day and generate your own listing lead. To which I'm going to say, that is a very scalable skill, which, by the way, is a hell of a lot easier than having to make a bunch of damn YouTube videos or anything else. And here's the other thing. And listen, please, listeners, to what I'm telling you. The whole YouTube game, the whole social media game, all that stuff is going to be eviscerated over the next 90 to 120 days because of AI. If you think, like, for example, all of you are spending all this time to learn how to make TikTok videos and YouTube videos and Instagram videos, and you think that's going to somehow cause the world to rain leads down on you, every agent and their mother is going to be making videos because AI is going to be able to make videos for people instantaneously. You're going to be able to go to these AI apps that are being, I've studied the snot out of this, so I speaketh the truth, where you're going to be able to, and some of you should be excited about this because, frankly, then I'll be telling you to make videos because it'll take you about 30 seconds to make one video and the AI will do it for you. That's basically the punchline. Yes. That's what's going to happen. AI will be making these videos for you. And at that point, if you want to make a tsunami of videos, go for it. But understand what it is. It's purely speculative. It's as speculative as doing direct mail or doing geographic farming. You're hoping you're going to send out 500 cards, you might get 3 or 4 leads.
We have zero control over it. Okay, so even if you get 1,000 views, do you even know who those people are? Do you have any reason to believe that any of them even owns a house? They may or may not, right? Yet you call those 280 from the list. 100% of them have a house to sell, and we're willing to list it. You have evidence of this.
I don't even understand why people argue with this logic, honestly.
Well, I've heard the argument that, well, if I make one video, it lives forever and I can reach thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, but who are those thousands of people? Well, I like low numbers, low ratios. 200 people. Let's say you only contact 20 of them and you take 10 listings. 10 listings times the average commission right now is over $100,000.
But that's even a lie, because not what you said about the numbers, but the one video, yes, it will hypothetically live forever, but who cares?
Right.
There's thousands of videos that are getting published every single day that are going to compete with your one video. Mm-hmm. You won't be able to ever stop making content. Really high-level content guys are making videos constantly. They're working way harder than agents that are proactively lead generating, building up their listing inventory.
Way.
There's no question about it. The marketing and advertising stuff, and we've said this infinitesimally on this podcast. I think I used that word wrong. But where it does make sense is if you're selling a product and you have to go out and basically, find the customer. You don't have to do that because you have access to ready, willing, and able sellers. You don't have to go looking for them. You can just get lists of who they are and you can call them. I promise you guys, if Ford could get a list of every single person in your community that wanted to buy a new F-150, for sure, I want to buy a new F-150, Ford would pay an enormous amount of money for those people. If you knew if you were a local restaurant and you had a list of people, real time, who are thinking, I'm ready to have a steak, I want to go out and have whatever, and you knew instantly who those people were, that would be a valuable, but they don't. They have to market. They have to advertise. They have to create, brand awareness. They have to do all these things. You don't, because you can get lists of people right now who want to sell their home. Do you guys get the difference? The marketing and advertising does make sense in some industries, selling cars, other things. But it doesn't make sense as to the same level when you have available lists of people that you can just be calling. And guys, this is something you're going to have to emotionally move past, and you just have to accept it because it's the truth. If you want to have ever-increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, I have news for you. It's not that difficult. You just have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do at the highest level. And remember, your highest and truest purpose on this planet is being of service to other people. If you stay in alignment with those two thoughts, everything after that becomes easy because you now have a filter to run things through. And now you have a set of rules in which you can make decisions by. And when these marketing and branding people come knocking on your door, virtually or otherwise, you will be able to say no, and with confidence, because I can generate my own leads. That's what we teach you to do in Premier Coaching. Now, again, I want to be very clear. If you want to do the marketing and the branding and the team building and all these other things, fine, great. Julie and I do a ton of social media. And some of you found us from social media. But again, I don't have a list of agents out there who want to buy coaching, so we have to do marketing. You guys get it? Different. Now, do it after you've learned how to proactively lead generate it. Do the marketing, the branding, and all the rest of it after you have consistent cash flow. And then when you want to be more speculative, you can afford to be. Because if you basically make a bad bet on something, it won't take you under. And you will always have consistent cash flow because you've learned how to be an agent who knows how to consistently generate listing leads. Now you have consistent cash flow. Now you have consistent ability to save money. Now you have a consistent high quality of life. You guys get the word there, consistency. That comes from doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. I'm not, Julie and I are not, our coaches will never lie to you about that. There is no easy button. People that are trying to sell you easy buttons in any form are snake oil salesmen. They're charlatans. They've been with us for, since the dawn of humanity, and they always will be. Some of them don't know that they are. They don't. Maybe I'm being overly generous. Most of them do, though. They know what they're selling is snake oil. You have to be smart enough to trust your intuition and accept the fact that on the other side of long periods of time, of doing real work in real estate, of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level, is everything you want in life. And it gets easier. It really, truly does. Because you built momentum. You built momentum with the skill set. You built momentum with the discipline. You built momentum with, frankly, the wealth building vehicles you've created for yourself. Guys, please take this seriously. You can become more successful now, regardless of your age, regardless of your education level, regardless of where you live. None of it really matters. You can become more successful now because of this market, because so many agents are entering into this transitional market, which is going to be a long period of time, by the way, 5, 10 years, with no skill set and following the wrong leaders. That is what happens in a market change like this. So tune into the frequency of being of service to other people. There's some woo-woo for you. And accept the fact that this is your market because of this market. Guys, thank you for keeping this #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in at least the United States. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow. Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.